For the 9th time in history, we have a different Batman. Today's video is about Batman played by Robert Pattinson, who takes on the role of Bruce Wayne in his early years wearing Batman's costume in a Gotham given over to crime, violence, and corruption. In this version, Riddler is the villain who has a lot in common with the protagonist, reflecting the same indignation against the city's sins and taking justice into his own hands. Still on similarities, the film features other characters who, coming from different places, have very similar traumas, such as orphanhood and loneliness. To conclude, in this dark world, the film makes a clear reference to a biblical character. I don't know if you caught this reference and how it relates to the plot, so stay until the end, leave your like, comment later what you thought, and let's go. In 1939, Detective Comics, now DC Comics, launched the first Batman comic book. Although the character was first created by Bob Kane, most of what we know about the Dark Knight is due to the creations of Bill Finger, who influenced everything from the look and feel of the detective to Gotham and the urban and mafia crimes against which he fights. In that sense, Matt Reeves' Batman, released this year, is a tribute to the original essence that founded the Dark Knight as we know it. Set in one of the best Gothams ever seen in cinema, precisely because it integrates the villains into the city's widespread corruption and its moral decadence so present in the comics, the story brings us to a Batman in the dawn, or rather, dusk, of his early years with his cape and bat mask, while already consolidating himself as a symbol of fear and revenge. When the signal appears in the clouds, everyone is terrified by the possibility of the vigilante appearing in the middle of the darkness to punish the bad. The boy who was traumatized by seeing his parents being killed by the city's crime faces the same Gotham that produced this murder and sees himself responsible for avenging them, frightening criminals and, consequently, even ordinary citizens. At the beginning, Gotham is not a city that Bruce Wayne loves and wants to rescue. Gotham is the city he wants revenge against. At the beginning of the film, when defeating criminals who were robbing a worker at a subway station, the saved victim is neither grateful nor relieved, but remains with the same fear felt by her attackers and asks Batman not to hurt her. This tells us a lot about how the city still doesn't see him as a hero, but as a threat. Because he is still a young Bruce Wayne, his past is somewhat present, and the film tells precisely this process of overcoming. The truth is that Batman never completely erases what happened to his parents from his upbringing and motivations, he just redirects those feelings into a never-ending quest for revenge. Personified and repeated by himself several times, Batman is almost no longer an eccentric character in Gotham's Hall of Villains. His strangeness with the police and the widespread fear he produces among the population make him much closer to that than a hero. It is when he is faced with his mirror in the Riddler, his vision in the enemy, that he realizes that he cannot act in the same way. Bruce Wayne and Edward Nashton, the Riddler, share the same orphan background. The difference is that this didn't stop Bruce from remaining his father's millionaire heir, while Nashton was the poor boy in the orphanage who, from the top of a tower, found himself lonely. This inequality only fuels the resentment and hatred throughout the Riddler's life towards the Wayne family, combined with a contempt for the city because of its corrupt system that involved mayors, parliamentarians, police, and businessmen in the various sectors of the municipality with crime. Organized. Riddler saw Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father, as one of the main causes or catalysts of the evil that perpetuated until his generation. Suspicious that Bruce Wayne is Batman, Riddler commits a succession of crimes as a serial killer against the corrupt bigwigs of Gotham, with riddles aimed at Batman that lead him to better understand his past and that of his parents, unearthing his mistakes, which destabilizes Bruce's idealized view of them. Nashton's vision of justice, written in the scenarios he sets up for Batman to unravel, is that the son should pay for his father's sins. In this sense, it is inevitable to remember that the divine standard of justice described mainly by the prophet Ezekiel says exactly the opposite. The son will not bear the iniquity of the father, nor will the father bear the iniquity of the son, revealing that perhaps it is an ancient tendency of human beings to take revenge disproportionately, with an insatiable heart, causing innocent people to be punished for the mistakes of others. The Bible states, however, that everyone will be accountable for their own actions. In a way, this is what Batman learns throughout the film, as he gradually strips himself of this personification of revenge, understanding that even he has his mistakes and that more than repaying the evil that each person has committed in the past, he needs to be a symbol of hope for better days in the future. Losing parents and being rejected or by those who are absent permeates the story not only of Bruce Wayne and Nashton, but also of Selina Kyle, Catwoman, presented in this version of Batman. Having her mother die within a context of prostitution and drugs, where her father, Carmine Falcone, is the head of organized crime and treats her like a nobody, this makes Selina a pragmatic person who is willing to go through anything to achieve his individual peace, even submitting to the same environment that murdered his mother. The orphanhood of the three is a feeling of unworthiness and devaluation, motivating them not to measure the consequences of their actions, both those that affect others, in the cases of Batman and Riddler, and those that affect themselves, in the case of the woman. Cat. Like one of the film's theme songs, Something in the Way, by Kurt Cobain, the song talks about the artist's perception of himself when he found himself rejected by his parents. The lyrics repeat how much he saw himself to those who abandoned him as a thing in the way, like an animal without a soul. On the other hand, we have the song Ave Maria being sung throughout the film at times. She who was the mother of Christ, a mother present until her death, sums up the maternal ideal of love and acceptance, precisely what the main characters of Batman lacked. Still on the soundtrack, the protagonist's official theme song borrows heavily from Chopin's well-known work, Funeral March, with its bass piano and alternating minor notes, resonating the darkness and depression of Batman's soul, the child who somehow also died on the night of his parents' murder. The version of the soundtrack is very similar to the theme song of another famous movie character, Darth Vader, from the Star Wars saga. In his past, Anakin Skywalker had no father and separated from his mother as a child to join the Jedi Order, but due to the way he dealt with his traumas, he was drawn to the dark side of the Force, becoming one of the greatest villains of pop culture. As we said, Batman's trajectory increasingly flirting with darkness and shadow, elements that represent him so strongly, if not confronted with the similarities he himself saw in Riddler, could make him also become a great villain for Gotham. In the last act, after a lot of violence and seeking to satisfy his revenge, Batman has a lapse in understanding and does not see his mission completed only when he has finished defeating all his enemies, but descends to the victims injured by the Riddler's last attack and stops to rescue them. When reaching out to a cornered population afraid of his presence, the first person who responds to the gesture and accepts being saved by that shadowy figure is a boy who followed Bruce Wayne's gaze throughout the film, the son of the mayor of Gotham, murdered at the beginning of the film as the Riddler's first victim. The protagonist sees himself in the boy at various times, but, unlike Bruce Wayne, who did not have a symbol of hope when his parents were murdered and who was perhaps one of the factors that led him to this place of grudge and revenge, Batman does not want that the boy has to go through the same traumas as him. This is how Batman stops being just the personification of fear, revenge, shadow, and darkness and also becomes a light to rescue victims, leading the crowd into red waters. The director makes reference to a biblical character leading the crowd at the Red Sea to a place of hope, Moses, who also had a childhood of paternal absence, but who, initially vengeful upon seeing the injustices committed against his own people, lives a long process of transformation, where he goes from someone vengeful killing the Egyptian, then through a period of seclusion, until, at the call of God, he returns as a patient man, the most patient man who has ever walked the earth, to free the Hebrews. This is the story of someone who, in his context of trauma, had the privileges of being welcomed by the Pharaoh's family, who felt the pain of those who were wronged and initially tried to take justice into his own hands, until his journey made him understand that, more than punishing the bad, his role was to lead the innocent to a safe place, giving them a new future. These stories intertwine and affect each of us in our troubles, traumas, and pasts that are not always pleasant. Our faith is in being able to deliver our expectations to the one who will reward each one according to their works fairly. Our help comes from above, our salvation comes from above, where our Heavenly Father lives, but who is also the God present in times of distress, who does not forget or abandon his own and continues to call everyone to, through his Son, participate of your eternal family. A God who gives orphans and widows a home in the place where the sun of justice shines forever. If you like the content and want to help us continue, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment or suggestion about a book, film, series, anime that you want to see analyzed on the channel.